Researchers are finding new ways to monitor groundwater storage around the state to help identify and protect Arizona's groundwater supply. Dave Famiglietti from ASU School of Sustainability joins us now. His research team is leading this groundwater tracking effort. Good to have you here. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thanks so much for having me.
So what are you're basically tracking groundwater supplies, and talk about what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Sure. So we use a satellite mission called GRACE. It's a NASA mission, and GRACE stands for Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment. It's been flying since 2002, and over the last couple of decades, it has allowed us to track the changes in groundwater storage, not just in Arizona, but around the world. It's really an unusual satellite in that it functions much more like a scale than, say, a camera or a telescope or a thermometer up in the sky. It's much more like a scale. And let's make it really simple. Water is really, really heavy.
Yes.
And when you lose a lot of it, like we're doing here in the American Southwest, or you're gaining a lot of it over a large area, say the Sierras in California after a big snowstorm, the gravitational tug on the satellites changes. When there's more water, it pulls them a little closer to the Earth. When there's less water, they float a little higher in their orbit. So that's sort of like the scale. These satellites, there's two of them. And they move up and down in response to how much water is in the ground, and NASA makes incredibly accurate measurements, basically, of the position of the scale.
That is absolutely amazing. Because you think about a satellite, you think about imagery, and you think, wait a minute, how can you take imagery of groundwater? That can't work. But you are literally, imagery, forget that. You're just looking at the level of the satellite.
Yes, we are. And it's pretty amazing. It's true rocket science. And it's been revolutionary, actually, within the water sciences, because before we had this scale that has allowed us to see the ups and downs of how much water is stored on and in the ground, we had to rely on what are very sparse measurements around the world. So the satellite picture gives us continuous global scale measurements from which we can understand what's going on.
Is it the kind of thing where, does it have to be placed in a certain spot? Can it find groundwater?
No, it can't. I wish that it could.
Yeah.
No, the satellites orbit around the poles. So there's two of them. They're not very big. They're about maybe the size of this stage. Maybe if you double this stage, they're about 1 meter by 2 meters by 3 meters. And they follow each other around in what we call a near polar orbit. So as the Earth is spinning around and the satellites are moving, they're basically sweeping over the Earth, mapping these places that are gaining or losing water storage on a monthly basis and longer, so we can start to look at trends over 20 years. To get back to the point of, can we find water? No, we can't find water, and we can't tell the absolute amount. We can't say, hey, there's this much groundwater in the ground. What we can see is how much it's changing, the rate at which it's changing around the world.
Interesting. So when you make one pass and it's X, and you make the next pass and it's X minus 1,
exactly,
you're losing water.
That's right. And in some places it's X minus 1, and in some places it's X plus 1.
Yeah. Arizona's water supplies. From all of this research, what are you finding?
Like a lot of the American Southwest, it's very dry. We're losing a fair amount of water here across the state. Something like between 1 and 1.5 million acre feet per year. A lot of that is because of things like climate change, the fact that the Colorado River Basin is drying out, we don't get as much stream flow, and the fact that we use a lot of groundwater.
Yeah. So with that in mind, how do you use this research from what you know, what you plan on finding out, for the future? Can you predict the future from knowing what's happened in the past?
I have, in my office, I have several crystal balls. So we can use the satellites to understand over the last couple of decades how our water storage is changing, not just the groundwater, but the surface water as well. So we can see those trends. We have to use observations on the ground to understand how much water we need. So we're trying to look at that statewide. So water from the environment, water for the economy, water for people, right? Water for energy production, for food production. And so we can look at that, and this is what we plan to do at ASU, is understand how that gap between supply and demand is changing. So yes, we can predict the future. We use computer models. And then we think about the technology and the policy and the things that we need to do to minimize that gap. Once we identify the gap and quantify it, Now we have to figure out how to fill it in.
That policy,
Yeah.
obviously, water. We've already had 20 some odd bills approached here in the state legislature, but the session hasn't even started yet, and we're already seeing all these water bills out there. What would you like to see decision makers, lawmakers, people in the position of authority do when it comes to let's stick to groundwater right now?
Yeah. So I would like to see us think about extending the Groundwater Management Act to cover the entire state. Right now, less than 25% by area is covered. And so across the rest of the state, it's basically a free-for-all. That's not uncommon around the world.
Yeah.
And that's why we have these numerous hotspots for the disappearance of groundwater all over the world. So that, I think, is critical for a desert state like Arizona, for a desert city like Phoenix, to really, the thing about groundwater is that it's intergenerational. It's an inheritance. It's not about us, and it's not really about the next 20 years. It's generations.
Last question: are we whistling past the graveyard or the water tower here? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of it'll fix itself down the road. We'll get to it when we get to it. You see? Are you hearing that? Are you feeling that?
That's around the world, kicking the can down the road,
Yeah.
and that's the political side of things, because most political terms are short. I think we're fortunate right now to have a governor who is very water forward, and so I think there's an opportunity to stop kicking the can down the road and to do something now.
Last thing here. You have a podcast, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. It's What About Water?
Yes.
And Arizona PBS is involved some way, shape, or form?
Yes, we just moved to Arizona PBS, and we'll be starting season 5 very soon. It's science-based, and so we try to do science translation and bring the science from schools like ASU and schools around the world, and translate it and talk about it with the scientists. Hopefully it's interesting.
All right. What About Water? That's the title, correct?
That's it.
All right. Jay Famiglietti, again, ASU School of Sustainability. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.